Welcome to the Prescott Lab podcast, not just theory, practical science for everyone. I'm Dr. Jonathan Prescott, a physician and integrative medicine researcher at the Ravenshade Institute for Human Health. And today we're walking straight into one of those questions most men over 60 think about but rarely speak aloud, not to their doctors, not to their friends, not even to themselves. What happens if I ejaculate every single day? Sounds simple. But the answers, they're anything but. Because the truth is, for some men, this daily habit becomes a source of clarity, energy, even healing. For others, it slowly chips away at their drive, their dignity, and their desire to connect. You might have heard one side of the story or the other, but very few people are talking about both, especially with honesty, science, and respect. That's exactly what we're doing today. We'll walk through 5 real medical benefits and 5 risks you might not even realize are affecting you. No judgment, no fluff. Just the facts and what they mean for your health as a man. But before we get deep into it, can I ask you a favor? If you've ever watched one of our videos and thought, damn, I wish more men knew this, then please take 2 seconds right now and tap that like button. Not for me, for every man who's still quietly wondering. That one click helps this content reach them. It tells YouTube this matters. And for us, it's the fuel that keeps this mission going, creating more content, more clarity, more truth for men just like you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. This isn't just a podcast, it's a lifeline for older men who still want to understand their bodies, protect their health, and live with strength. Because no, you're not too old to care, you're wise enough to finally do it right. Now, what if I told you that the first benefit men notice from daily ejaculation isn't even physical? It's something deeper. A shift that happens behind your eyes, not below the belt. Let me show you what I mean. Benefit number 1, mood booster: how ejaculation lifts your spirit. Let's start with something you've probably felt, even if you couldn't quite explain it. That subtle shift in your mood, that soft exhale, that sense of release that lingers long after the act itself. I've had dozens of older patients look me in the eye and say the same 5 words: "Doc, I just feel better." Not euphoric, not wild, just lighter, less tense, less irritated, more you again. Here's what's really happening beneath the surface. When you ejaculate, your brain unleashes a well-coordinated flood of neurochemicals. Dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, serotonin. Each one plays a different note, but together they form a powerful emotional symphony. Dopamine gives you that sense of reward. It's the voice in your head that says, "That felt good, do it again." It's also the fuel behind motivation, drive, and even hope. Then there's oxytocin, the so-called bonding hormone. Even when you're alone, it still shows up. Not because of who you're with, but because your body is wired to create calm, to pull you into safety. Endorphins act like natural painkillers. They dull physical tension, they soothe anxiety, that floating, relaxed feeling that's not imagined. It's measurable, and serotonin, it's the emotional anchor. It helps stabilize your mood, quiets the inner noise, and makes room for emotional steadiness. For men in their 60s and beyond, especially those navigating grief, loneliness, or the quiet ache of long days, this chemical release isn't just a feel-good moment, it's therapeutic. I remember a patient named George, 74 years old, retired mechanic, widower. He told me that his nightly routine wasn't about lust, it was about balance. "It's like it resets my nervous system," he said, and he was right. He'd spent years trying to manage low mood, irritability, that sense of being stuck in his own head. And while it wasn't a miracle, regular mindful release became part of his toolkit right alongside morning walks and evening journaling. Now, this isn't a cure for depression, and it should never replace deeper emotional work or connection. But when done with intention, not distraction, it becomes a valid part of self-care, a way to feel grounded, present, human. And sometimes, that's all a man really needs. But what if I told you that same flood of chemistry might be doing more than just lifting your spirit? What if it's quietly helping your body ease into the one thing most older men are starving for, but rarely get enough of? Let's explore that next. Benefit number 2, better sleep: the hormone behind restful nights. Have you ever noticed how easily you fall asleep after climax? You're not lazy, you're not making it up, you're not alone. For thousands of older men, that quiet window just after orgasm is the only time their body feels safe enough to rest. No tossing, no turning, just a soft, steady fade into sleep. The reason lies in a hormone most people never talk about. It's called prolactin. Unlike dopamine or testosterone, prolactin doesn't get much attention. But once you ejaculate, this hormone rises sharply, and with it, your brain gets a signal. It's time to wind down. It lowers arousal, slows heart rate, and moves your nervous system from alert to recovery mode. You're not crashing, you're resetting. But prolactin isn't acting alone. You also get a final encore from oxytocin and endorphins, the same chemical team we talked about earlier. They melt stress, quiet mental chatter, ease muscular tension. It's like your body is tucking itself into bed from the inside out. One of my patients, Harold, age 68, put it perfectly. Doc, when I was younger, I'd fall asleep after sex because I was exhausted. Now I fall asleep because I feel released. He'd spent months trying everything: melatonin, warm baths, even sleeping pills. Nothing worked until he reframed his relationship with his body. Instead of fighting restlessness, he worked with it. He gave his body a quiet, familiar signal: you're safe now, let go. And night after night, that pattern began to take root, not forced, not mechanical, just present. Now, I'm not saying ejaculation is the magic fix for chronic insomnia. But for many men, especially those dealing with disrupted circadian rhythms or age-related stress, it can be the missing piece that helps the system reset. Because sleep isn't just about what time you close your eyes, it's about the state your body is in when you do. And when your nervous system is soothed from the inside, sleep becomes not just possible, but natural. But let me ask you something. What if this daily act isn't just helping your mind relax or your body recover? What if it's giving your heart a very specific kind of workout, one that most men your age are quietly missing? Let's take a closer look. Benefit number 3, improved circulation, a mini cardio boost you didn't expect. You might not think of your heart when you think about ejaculation, but you should, because every time you climax, your cardiovascular system shows up, and it doesn't just show up, it performs. Let's break it down. During arousal and orgasm, your heart rate climbs, your blood pressure rises slightly, and most importantly, your blood vessels expand. That process is called vasodilation. It's your body's way of increasing blood flow quickly, efficiently, and all across your system. It's the same mechanism that nitric oxide supplements or beetroot try to enhance. Except this one, built-in, natural, no pills required. Now think about what happens to most men after 60. The arteries stiffen, circulation slows, blood flow becomes sluggish. The hands get colder, the feet more numb, the mind sometimes foggy. And yet, when you engage in healthy, intentional ejaculation, even solo, you're encouraging full-body circulation. Not just to the genitals, to the brain, to the organs, to every vessel that craves oxygen-rich blood. I once had a patient named Dennis, 71, former construction supervisor. Big guy, slow talker, bad knees. He told me, half laughing, "Doc, I call it my heart tune-up." And he wasn't wrong. After integrating mindful self-pleasure into his weekly routine, along with short walks and magnesium-rich meals, his blood pressure improved, his energy returned, his sleep deepened. He felt more alert, more alive, more himself. You see, we often talk about exercise, diet, and stress reduction as the pillars of heart health, and they absolutely are. But we forget that sexual activity, even alone, is a vascular event. A full-body cascade of responses that trains your system to stay responsive, elastic, and adaptable. This doesn't replace cardio. It doesn't substitute a good walk, a solid lift, or leafy greens. But it adds something subtle, a quiet reminder to your body that it still remembers how to pump, how to expand, how to feel alive. Because staying young at heart, it's not just about what you eat. It's about what you feel and how often you give your body the chance to move from the inside. But there's one organ we haven't talked about yet, and it's the one that's most associated with aging, anxiety, and silence until it starts causing problems. Let's go there next. Benefit number 4, lower prostate cancer risk. What Harvard got right. Let's get one thing straight. The prostate isn't some optional gland you can ignore. It's the gatekeeper of male reproductive health, and when it goes wrong, everything feels off. Urination, performance, confidence, even peace of mind. So when a study comes along backed by Harvard, no less, and says that regular ejaculation may help protect this gland, you pay attention. Here's what they found. Over 30,000 men were tracked for nearly 2 decades. Researchers wanted to know, is there a link between how often a man ejaculates and his risk of developing prostate cancer? The answer: men who ejaculated 21 times or more per month had a significantly lower risk than those who did so less frequently. We're not talking about a small margin. We're talking about real numbers that show a powerful trend. Why? Because every time you ejaculate, you're clearing out the prostate. Old fluid, cellular debris, potentially harmful buildup. Gone, think of it like changing the oil in your car. You wouldn't run an engine for 100,000 miles without flushing the system. So why would you treat your body any differently? And yet this is what too many men do. They suppress, they delay, they ignore, until the symptoms scream louder than their pride. But here's the hopeful part. You don't need a prescription, you don't need a procedure, you need awareness and consistency. Because regular ejaculation done with presence and health in mind acts as a kind of internal maintenance. It keeps the system moving, prevents stagnation, reduces inflammation, and most importantly, it sends a message to your body. This function still matters, keep it alive. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, even early 80s change their outlook after learning this. Not because they're chasing pleasure, but because they're owning their biology, not waiting for disease to force their hand. Is this a guarantee against cancer? No, there are always other factors, genetics, environment, lifestyle, but it's one of the simplest, most natural choices a man can make to support one of his most misunderstood organs. But here's something you might not expect. While you're flushing the prostate, your body may also be fortifying its first line of defense, not just down there, but everywhere. Let's look at that next. Benefit number 5, enhanced immune function, how release builds resilience. At first glance, it sounds far-fetched. You mean to tell me that something so private, so instinctive, could actually support your immune system? Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you, and the science backs it up. Let's start with the basics. When you ejaculate, you don't just experience pleasure. You initiate a powerful hormonal cascade, the same one we've been exploring all along. Dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, prolactin, these aren't just feel-good chemicals. They're chemical signals to your immune system saying, stand down, you're safe, repair can begin. That matters especially if you're over 60. Because as we age, chronic low-grade inflammation starts to creep in. It weakens our defenses, it slows down healing. It makes us more vulnerable to everything from common colds to more serious conditions. But that's not all. Multiple studies have shown that sexual activity, including mindful solo release, increases levels of immunoglobulin A. This is one of your body's frontline warriors. It's found in saliva, tears, and mucus, and it's your first defense against invading pathogens. Higher IgA levels mean your body is better equipped to block viruses and bacteria before they can dig deeper. Now, I'm not claiming that climax cures colds, but I've seen it play out in real life. One of my longtime patients, Frank, 66, diabetic former smoker, told me that ever since he started practicing regular intentional release, he noticed something strange. He got sick less often, he recovered faster after dental work. His seasonal allergies got milder, even the bruises on his legs seemed to fade quicker. At first, he laughed it off. Doc, maybe it's the garlic my wife makes me eat. But deep down, he knew something was shifting, and he was right, because pleasure and healing aren't opposites, they're partners. And when used with intention, your sexual energy can be part of a broader healing system, one that keeps you alert, balanced, and more resistant to daily stressors. Is this magic? No, it doesn't replace good nutrition, exercise, or sleep, but it complements them like a quiet reinforcement, a nightly whisper to your immune system. You're not under attack, you can heal now. And in a world full of hidden stress, that whisper might be the difference between burnout and bounce back. But let's be clear. Just because something has benefits doesn't mean it comes without cost, especially when used without awareness. Because daily ejaculation, for all its perks, also has a darker side, and for some men that side is already silently draining them. Let's begin there. Risk number 1, compulsive behavior when the habit starts owning you. Let me start with a truth most men don't like to admit. It's possible to do something every day, enjoy it at first, and then one day realize you're no longer choosing it, it's choosing you. That's how compulsion begins. I've had men, smart, self-aware, deeply reflective men, sit across from me and say, Doc, I don't even enjoy it anymore, but if I skip a day, I feel off. Agitated, uneasy. See, what starts as release can become routine, and what becomes routine can quietly evolve into a reflex, automatic, mindless, disconnected from pleasure, purpose, or presence. It's not about lust anymore, it's about regulation, relief, escape. And when that happens, you're not in control, you're responding to an urge without thinking. You're letting the body decide even when the mind has questions. One man, an engineer named Paul, retired at 67, described it perfectly. It's like brushing my teeth. I don't look forward to it, I don't feel different after, but I still do it every night without fail. But here's the difference. Brushing your teeth doesn't reshape your dopamine system. It doesn't train your nervous system to expect reward on command. Ejaculation does, and when that reward becomes non-negotiable, even when your heart's not in it, you're no longer using the habit. The habit is using you. This isn't about shame. There's no finger pointing here. But there is a line between conscious self-care and unconscious dependency. And when crossed, it can lead to deeper problems, not just in your hormones or your bedroom, but in your emotional health, your relationships, and your ability to find satisfaction in anything else. You stop seeking variety. You stop reaching for human connection. You lose the ability to sit in discomfort and grow from it. And that's where we begin to lose more than we realize. So here's the question. When was the last time you skipped the habit, not because you had to, but because you chose to? Because you felt full enough, connected enough, calm enough to not need it. If you're not sure, don't worry, you're not alone. But this brings us to something even more subtle. Something many men don't notice until it's already rooted deep inside. Let's look closer. Risk number 2, emotional dependence using pleasure to escape pain. Let's be honest, ejaculation feels good. Sometimes it feels like the only thing that does, especially after a long day, a lonely night, a stretch of time when life feels flat, quiet, or hollow. And in those moments it makes sense. Why not reach for something that guarantees relief? But here's the danger, one that most men don't even see coming. What happens when that moment of relief becomes the only way you cope? What happens when pleasure becomes your painkiller? I'm not talking about addiction in the extreme sense. I'm talking about emotional dependence, the habit of using release to dodge discomfort, sadness, anxiety, boredom, emptiness. Instead of sitting with those emotions, you run, not with your feet, but with your hands. I remember a patient named Glenn, 72. He lost his wife 3 years ago. He told me the nights were the worst. I didn't want to think, so I just release and go to bed. At first it helped. It softened the silence, made the evenings pass quicker, but over time something changed. He wasn't processing his grief. He wasn't reaching out to his children. He stopped playing guitar, stopped writing, stopped connecting. He thought he was soothing the pain, but he was just putting it on mute, one climax at a time, and that's the risk. When you rely on ejaculation to regulate your emotions, you stop developing other tools. You trade emotional growth for temporary numbness. You lose the muscle of resilience. You no longer ask, "What do I need?" You only ask, "How do I make this feeling go away?" Now, does this mean self-pleasure is wrong? Absolutely not. But if you find yourself reaching for it every time you're anxious, restless, or sad, ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What's beneath this urge? Because the truth is, your body might not be asking for pleasure. It might be asking for connection, for comfort, for healing. And if you don't listen, you'll keep feeding the surface while starving the soul. Now, that kind of emotional entanglement is hard enough. But what happens when the physical consequences start to show up too? Let's talk about one that most older men don't think applies to them, until it suddenly does. Risk number 3, lower sperm count. Why timing still matters. You might be thinking, sperm count at my age, that ship has sailed. But here's the thing, for some men it hasn't. In my practice, I've met dozens of men in their late 50s, 60s, even early 70s who were still actively trying to conceive, sometimes with a second partner, sometimes through surrogacy, sometimes just because they still could. And that's where this risk becomes more than a technicality. Because while the body does keep producing sperm well into older age, quality and concentration don't keep up, especially when ejaculation happens daily without pause. Here's the biology. After you release, your body needs time to regenerate healthy, motile sperm. But if you're ejaculating every day, you're not giving the system time to fully refill the tank. It's like trying to serve a full glass of water from a pitcher that never quite gets refilled. Over time, that leads to lower sperm volume, decreased sperm concentration, reduced motility, meaning sperm that can't swim well enough to reach their goal. One of my patients, Carlos, 61, came to me frustrated. He and his much younger partner had been trying for child for over a year. They both checked out healthy. No blockages, no major hormonal issues, no lifestyle red flags. But then I asked him about his habits. Daily, he said, sometimes twice. It helps me sleep. When we cut it back to every 2-3 days and added in some simple supplements, his sperm count jumped by over 40%. 4 months later, his wife was pregnant. Now, is daily ejaculation the enemy of fertility? No, but timing matters. And when it comes to sperm, frequency without recovery equals depletion. Even if you're not planning to have children, your sperm count can be a marker of your overall reproductive health, your testosterone function, your vitality, your endocrine balance. So think of it this way. You're not cutting back to deny yourself pleasure. You're doing it to give your biology a chance to do what it does best, build strength, not just release tension. And when you take that approach, you begin to see your sexuality not as a switch to flippy, but as a system to care for. But the impact doesn't stop at fertility. Because for some men, the real danger isn't in what leaves the body, it's in what slowly fades inside the mind. Let me show you what I mean. Risk number 4, reduced libido when desire quietly fades. Here's a paradox I've heard more times than I can count. Doc, I thought doing it every day would keep me in the mood, but now I don't feel anything at all. That's not weakness, that's not aging, that's biology pushing back, because the human brain, especially the male brain, runs on anticipation. And when you take away that space, that distance, that pause, you also start numbing the very system meant to ignite your desire. Let me explain. Every time you ejaculate, your brain floods with dopamine, the pleasure reward chemical, and like with anything that stimulates dopamine, sugar, caffeine, even social media, the more you trigger it, the less sensitive your receptors become. What once felt exciting now feels ordinary. What once sparked desire now barely registers. That buzz, that charge, it dulls. Quietly. Steadily, I had a patient, Jerome, 68, who came to me with this exact concern. He wasn't struggling with performance. His testosterone was solid, his relationship was good, but he said something I won't forget. Sex used to feel like a fire waiting to happen, now it feels like checking off a task. I do it, but it doesn't do anything to me anymore. When we talked more, we found the pattern. He'd fallen into a rhythm, daily release, no build-up. No novelty, no room for wanting. And that rhythm over time trained his brain to expect reward without desire. That's the danger, because desire, real, pulsing, alive desire needs space. It needs contrast. It needs moments of not having in order to fully enjoy the moment of receiving. When you eliminate the waiting, you flatten the wave. When you remove the hunger, you dilute the flavor. And that doesn't just affect your brain. It also affects your refractory period, the time your body needs to reset between arousals. For older men, that window is longer than it used to be, and pushing past it day after day often leads to flatness, fatigue, and confusion about why the spark's gone. So here's my advice. Take a break, 2 days, maybe 3. Watch what happens to your thoughts, your body, your energy. Sometimes less is exactly what reignites the more. But even when the spark returns, there's still one more problem that could be waiting. A risk that goes beyond desire, beyond mood, and straight into performance itself. Let's face it, no man wants to feel rushed, weak, or out of sync. But for some, daily release may be training their body to do exactly that. Let's unpack it. Risk number 5, premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction, the hidden cost of repetition. It always starts the same way. Doc, I used to be fine, now it's over before I can even think about it. Or worse, I used to feel solid, reliable, now I can't stay hard when it matters. Most men think this is just part of aging. They chalk it up to stress or blood flow or low testosterone. And sometimes they are right, but not always. Because in many cases, especially in otherwise healthy men, there's another factor at play, one that very few consider. You've trained your body to finish fast. Yes, trained. See, the body learns through repetition. Do something the same way over and over and your nervous system locks it in. That includes how you climax. And if you're ejaculating every day, often rushed, often alone, often mechanical, your body memorizes that pattern. It memorizes urgency. It memorizes minimal stimulation. It memorizes isolation. So what happens when you step into real intimacy? Your body panics, not consciously, but physiologically. It doesn't know how to slow down. It doesn't know how to stay present. It only knows how to perform, not connect. That's why so many older men who masturbate daily begin to experience premature release or erectile inconsistency during partnered sex. It's not because they are broken. It's because they've wired themselves for efficiency, not depth. And here's the deeper problem. Once it starts, the anxiety kicks in. You begin to worry. Will I last? Will I respond? Will I embarrass myself? That worry becomes a feedback loop. The more you worry, the worse it gets. Until one day you start avoiding intimacy altogether, not because you don't want it, but because you're afraid of failing in it. But here's the good news, this can be reversed. Not overnight. Not with a pill, but with awareness, with slowing down, with retraining. Start by breaking the autopilot, set intentions. Breathe, focus on sensation, not just completion, and when possible, wait. Give your body space to reset and your mind time to unlearn what it picked up in haste, because performance isn't just physical, it's neurological, and what you repeat, you reinforce. Now we've walked through 5 clear benefits and 5 very real risks. So the question becomes, where does that leave you? Let's bring it all together. Conclusion, it's not about stopping, it's about choosing. So what really happens when you ejaculate every day? After everything we've explored together, the benefits, the risks, the stories, the science, I hope one thing is clear. It's not about yes or no, it's about how and why and when, and most of all, who, because this isn't a mechanical decision. This is a personal relationship between you and your body, your habits, your emotions, your health. Daily ejaculation can lift your mood. It can help you sleep. It can stimulate your heart, support your prostate, and give your immune system a little more fuel. But it can also become a reflex, a crutch, a quiet habit that disconnects you from deeper forms of healing, intimacy, or meaning. It can flatten your desire. It can interfere with your performance. It can teach your body to rush when it should linger and numb when it should feel. So here's my advice. Start asking better questions. Not should I stop, but am I choosing this with clarity? Is this serving my vitality or just filling my time? Do I feel more alive or just less empty? And then listen not just with your mind, but with your body, because your body is always speaking, through tension, through energy, through craving, through peace. And what you do with that information, that's not about morality, it's about mastery. You are not too old. You are not too far gone, and you are definitely not broken. You are in a season of life that demands honesty, grace, and courage, and you deserve to feel connected to yourself, to your health, to whatever gives you meaning. If this video gave you that clarity even for a moment, I'd love to know. Scroll down and type 1 if this spoke to you. Type 0 if it didn't quite land. No explanation needed. Just the number. I'll read everyone if you haven't yet. Please hit the like button. It's not just about approval, it's oxygen for this channel. Every click tells the algorithm this matters. Older men matter. Honest health conversations matter. And if you're able, share this video. Send it to someone who's quietly wondering about this too. You never know the impact one real conversation can have. And finally, if you want to support what we do, there's a donation link below. It helps keep this channel independent, ad-free, and fully focused on delivering truth, not trends. You're not alone in this. You never were. Until next time, take care of your body. Take care of your mind. And above all, take care of the man inside you who's still learning, still healing, still strong. You deserve that.